So, you're building a welding bed for the first time, or you just bought a welding bed, and you need to know, do I fasten the machine down to the bed? How do I do it? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Stick around till the end and I'll share with you my list of essential tools needed to get started as a rig welder. This is a list that I share with people just getting started to kind of know where to invest your money at first. While we get started, make sure and subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when I post a new video every Friday. If we haven't met yet, I'm Austin Ross, or A Ross Welding here online. On this channel we talk about being a rig welder, a pipeliner, and I share tips on the traveling lifestyle. It's a quick tip today, but I love answering these questions for you. I get it. Sometimes it's a lot trying to make different decisions when putting together a truck, when trying to get into this pipeline lifestyle or rig welding in general. It's a lot of information, so I'm glad I can be here to answer your questions. Alright, so do you even need to fasten your machine down to your bed? Technically, you don't have to fasten it down. I have the option to fasten my machine down, but I don't always do it. Depending on where you're working, like if you work up in the Northeast, which what I call the Northeast is Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, that area, the terrain's real hilly, so I would suggest fastening your machine down. If you're working out in West Texas or North Dakota where it's real flat, or even Oklahoma or whatever, anywhere where it's flat, you wouldn't necessarily have to actually fasten it down. Now you still might want a way to, keep it from sliding around for sure, have a place to drop it in or whatever. If you haven't seen my rig tour video, we'll link it in the description also, and you can see how I dropped it down there so it couldn't move around. I've done that because I don't always fasten it down. A lot of times whenever I get home off a long job, the first thing I do is I unload my machine with my A-frame and change the oil. So it's nice to not have it bolted down. After I'm done, I just set it back down. And the way my bed is right now, it's not the easiest to bolt down, so I don't always worry about bolting it down. I can just drop it on there and go right back to work if I need to, or do work around the house or whatever it is. It's nice to be able to have a spot just to set it and not bolt it down. Real quick, let me know in the comments which is your favorite welding machine to weld with, or do you know yet? So if you are wanting to fasten your machine down, or you want the option to, my preferred way is not the way that's on my truck right now. Actually, I just recently redone the way I bolted my machine down, and I've got some footage of what I've done there, and I'll insert it right here while I'm talking about it throughout this video. If I were to do it over again, I would put 2 bolts. You can bolt all 4 corners down, but I would put 2 bolts caddy corner from each other, and I would put a plate coming up off the bed and a hole into your frame. That way you can get to the front and back side of your bolts from the top of the bed. You don't have to get up underneath it. So that's the way I would suggest doing it. I think it is the easiest. I've even seen guys use like just pins with cotter pins or whatever in the back so the bolt can't come out. That same style, the 2 plates coming up and a hole in your machine, but they just put a pin through it because then it can't move around and the pin can't come out. It don't even require any wrenches, so that's probably what I'm gonna do on my next bed. Another way I've seen lots of welders is you can just tack your machine down. I don't personally want to tack to my machine, but a lot of old SA200s and even newer machines, I've seen guys weld them down. Kind of a side note here, but if you're working off of a buggy and you're trying to fasten a machine down, but you don't want to bolt it, or you don't have any bolts, or they don't get you any bolts on the job so you can bolt it down, or you don't want to drill a hole, or any of these reasons, you can build some clips like this. You get these clips that bend over your frame cattywampus all the way up against the frame, and you can weld just the clip. That way you don't weld to your machine, or you don't drill any holes in your frame. That's another thing that I've done several times when fastening my machine down to a sled or a Maruku buggy. A little pro tip for mounting a machine on your bed. If you're building a bed or modifying a bed, it's a good idea to position your machine where you can change the oil easily. Have a spot in the bottom of the bed and a tube coming off your oil drain to where you don't have to lift your machine up to change the oil. That way you can change it whenever you're not at home and you don't have a way to lift it. A lot of times you can utilize the equipment at work, like at the yard or out on the right of way, to change your oil, but sometimes it's not an option. So you can change it at the campground or hotel or whatever if you have a hole in your bed and a tube and then just a container to catch your used oil. But you also want to make sure you leave room to put oil back in the machine. On most gasoline machines, if your front of your machine is facing your driver's side, which is the normal, where you change your oil is going to be towards the cab. So you may not want to put your machine right up against the cab of your truck, or if you do, leave a little bit of space, just enough to be able to get a funnel in there and pour oil in it. The diesels are usually the opposite. I don't know about all of them, but usually it's the opposite. The oil is on towards the back of your truck if your machine is facing towards the driver's side. Once you have your machine on your bed, you're gonna need some tools. I've shared this essential tools list before, and I've got a lot of good feedback on how it's helped people save time and money when getting into being a rig welder. You can get yours by clicking on the top link in the description. Just drop me your name and your email, and I'll email it over to you. Before you go, make sure to answer the question of the day: which is your favorite machine to weld with? Subscribe for more videos like this one, and ring the bell to get notified when I post a new video every Friday. My advice for this week is be resourceful. As you go throughout your week, keep an eye on how you can be more resourceful or more efficient. We live in the information age. With the internet booming like it is and has for several years now, that means you can get answers to nearly any question. But I've found that it sometimes cripples us. We wonder too much of what others think or how they do it. Find your own process. Take hints from others, but then do it your way. Be creative if you don't have the money, the tool, or the connections. Be resourceful. And remember, learn something every day, and we will see you next Friday. Thanks for watching.